1 minute we're like, yes, it's a goal, and then it's like, oh, actually, hang on.
United, yeah. Sorry.
I'm glad I'm not refereeing because I think they've got a monkey on the back, and I'm seeing good referees umble, mumble, and stumble through some decisions.
Okay, so I got another question for you. Chelsea, the biggest beneficiaries of VAR errors this season? Well, that's what the stats suggest, and it's sparking a fierce debate amongst fans and pundits alike. So from incorrectly disallowed goals to avoiding penalties, Chelsea seem to have found themselves on the right side of some of the Premier League's most controversial decisions this year. I don't know how. Now, VAR was supposed to make football fairer. Some say it's doing the complete opposite. And Chelsea fans? Well, you're not really complaining this year, are you? I'm Paul Coyte. Welcome back to Sport on GB News Originals. Now, the Premier League's now in its 6th season of VAR, yet the same arguments refuse to go away. High-profile mistakes, week after week after week. In fact, according to the Premier League's key match incidents panel, things have actually got worse, and they're supposed to be getting better. Now, by the midpoint of this season, there have been more VAR errors than the same stage last year. The panel identified 13 official VAR mistakes so far, which is 3 more than last season at this point, and all of them involve either incorrect interventions or failures to correct on-field errors. You know, I'll tell you where I am with this. The whole idea of VAR, and I think you may agree with me, it seems like it's a good idea because everybody forgets the bad old days when there were mistakes being made and teams are saying, this is this is a high-profile game, this is costing money, this is costing points, this is a disaster, and it shouldn't be happening in this day and age. So they bring in VAR. So it makes sense. So you put cameras in and then we can see the evidence for ourselves. But the problem is, it's all down to human error again. People looking at them, there's complaints about the fact that it should be actually ex-players that are looking at them because they understand fouls better, or it's just speed. It's the fact that it affects all of us so long because we're having to wait. 1 minute we're like, yes, it's a goal, and then it's like, oh, actually, hang on. And then you have to wait a bit longer, and then you can cheer, and you don't really have the same energy as you had the first time. Anyway, Chelsea, they've been involved in 3 of them so far this season with, guess what? None of them have actually gone against them. Chelsea. That includes an incorrectly disallowed Fulham goal and 2 separate penalty incidents involving Malo Gusto where VAR failed to intervene. So let's have a look at the full VAR. This is official now, the full VAR table, who's benefited and who's been punished, and to be honest, who might feel a little bit hard done by. So there's Chelsea at the top then. I mean, at the end of the day, 3, does that make a huge difference throughout a season? But that's how it looks. 3 errors have gone towards Chelsea. Then we've got Newcastle with 2, Arsenal with 1, and as we work down, there's Spurs with 1 as well. But if we look down at the bottom, which may surprise when people say, the big clubs, they always seem to get the right decisions, it's probably the biggest 3, arguably, that actually decisions have gone against them, which may surprise you. Liverpool, Manchester City, and right at the bottom is Man United. So the question's simple. Coincidence? Good fortune? Or a system that still isn't working as it's supposed to? Now that brings us to a rule change that's back in the spotlight. This is Wenger's law. I'm not talking about the Wenger boys, I'm talking about the former Arsenal manager. Arsene Wenger, has been pushing for this offside proposal for nearly 6 years now. But as VAR controversies keep on piling up, the idea refuses to go away. So what is the Wenger law? I hear you ask. Well, the concept is known as daylight, or if we're going to be very technical, visual separation. Under Wenger's proposal, if any part of the attacker is level with the defender, then they are onside. So in simple terms, there's got to be a clear gap between the attacker and the second to last opposition player for offside to be given. You follow me? Effectively, the last outfield defender given the goalkeeper's usual position. I'm trying my best to make this simple, but this is Arsene Wenger for you. It's one thing saying about there's got to be daylight, but even the way VAR is at the moment, Whether you're a millimetre or a centimetre or a metre, it's got to be measured somehow. So it's just another way, surely, of measuring it. Supporters say it would end those millimetre decisions. You know, the ones, it was just like a toenail, but offside is offside. That's the law. And then bring it some sort of clarity. Now, critics say it's going to change the game completely. If Wenger's law was in now, apparently there would have been 11 more Premier League goals this season. But when it comes to video assistant refereeing, which, if we're going to use its technical term, what do football fans actually really think? Well, let's find out.
Do you think VAR has made football better or worse?
It's a really hard question because obviously, beforehand, I remember the offside rule, and there'd be so many causes of issues for it, like a 2010 World Cup ups and header, which is disallowed, being one, but it's gone too far. So I think it's slightly gone the other way. It's made it a bit worse. Yeah, I have to go with it because it's not doing what it's supposed to be doing, and it gets it wrong, and that's not what it's about.
I'd say overall probably a negative impact. Takes time to assess everything when there's a goal, kills the momentum, sucks a bunch of the fun out of it. I think there's an element of mistakes that add to the history of the game and the games that you're watching. So yeah, I think it takes away.
Do you think VAR has improved football or made it worse?
I think it's a bit of both. I think it's good, but I feel like PGMOL is making a bit of an issue. They're not getting it right. I feel like you have to get a spot on every time because it's not as hard as you think it is to see what you're looking at. It has to be, there's no consistency of the fouls that's given, the penalty that's given. So it's a bit 50-50 for me.
Do you think that it's impacted you celebrating a goal?
Yeah, 100% that. Every time I see a goal, sometimes I don't want to get excited because I have to stop myself and be like, is that a goal? Is that not a goal? They have to wait for VAR 5 minutes, then I celebrate. It's a bit long sometimes, but it is what it is.
Do you think it favours Big Six sides more?
Ooh, that's a good question. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, yeah. Because I'm an Arsenal fan. There's been times where it shouldn't have been a free kick given a penalty, like the Marino when I forgot what team it was. I think it was Villa. That should have been a foul, but yeah, it's not. Yeah, I feel like that's.
What if I told you that Chelsea have been the biggest beneficiaries of VAR mistakes, but Man United have been the worst victims of VAR?
Good. I hate Man United. Can I swear? Man United, yeah.
Listen, nobody is going to say VAR's good. You can speak to anybody. Nobody's going to actually go, that VAR? I really like that. I think it works fantastically well, and I think it should stay the same. Nobody. Referees, players, supporters, nobody loves it. Look at that inconsistency we've heard. It sucks the life out of the game, which is true. All the waiting around, the celebrating goals. You don't know whether to celebrate or whether to stop or whether to start. The negative impact. Anyway, let's speak to someone who will know what it's like on the other side. Legendary referee, former chief of the PGMOL, Keith Hackett. Hi, Keith.
Morning, Paul.
Listen, great to see you. Thanks so much for your time. So is there any good side to it? I know we've spoken over the years and saying that the idea is great, and that's what I just said, but it still doesn't seem to work, does it?
No, I think we're still in an era where it is interfering with the game negatively. I mean, when we think back to when we wanted VAR, it was because of the Frank Lampard goal. It was the Thierry Henry in the World Cup scoring that goal against Ireland illegally. But, we've now had it in the Premier League about 6 years. I don't see any signs of improvement. So I think that what should happen is it should evolve and get better.
Yeah.
How is it going to get better? I think that I'm beginning to believe that there ought to be a time limit on it, because I think the longer it takes, the less buy-in there is from the fans and from the media and everybody, even myself.
This is just the problem, though, isn't it? This is the main problem all of us have. It's how long it takes, and that's what sucks the life out of the game.
Yeah, I mean, if we're taking longer than a minute, Paul, then that's not refereeing, is it? I mean, if we're in the middle and I'm making a call, I've got fractions of a second. Yes, I will make errors, as I've done in the past, generally accepted by the fans, part of the talking point, I suppose. But what we're doing now is we're getting too forensic. We're getting inconsistency on law application. We're getting comments from the Premier League that are not in line with the law, that further confuse. So for me, I'm glad I'm not refereeing because I think they've got a monkey on the back, and I'm seeing good referees mumble and stumble through some decisions, and the body language looks negative, and we just say that's surely wrong. When the Premier League come out, or Howard Webb comes out and clarifies, really you want somebody to quote law. Get back to, is it serious foul play? If it's not, why not? And if it's offside, why not? Because we're seeing inconsistency, too forensic an examination of offsides. And we get disagreement amongst match officials. So there's that level of inconsistency that is opposite to what VAR should be delivering.
It's supposed to be black and white, isn't it? Surely that was the whole point of VAR. This is what we liked in the first place, is where, because the evidence is there, it's just a chance to see it again. But it's just that then it's looked at, then you have the slow ones, don't you? Oh, it looks a lot worse when it's slowed down compared to actual speed. And then when you get in the situation, like you say, when it's going to go more than 30 seconds or a minute, then surely it's like, you know what, we'll just go with what we said in the first place, because it's just wasting so much time and everybody's just sitting there going, what is going on? We had 6 minutes, didn't we, the other day?
Yeah, that was a nonsense. I was watching that game. And you're just going, make a decision. Whatever it is, make a decision. It shouldn't take that long. Obviously, I think the semi-automated system that they brought in, that we were promised would improve things. I think generally in Europe, it has. The reason for that, I think in Europe, the difference is they use the Adidas ball that's got a chip inside it that's painted. And as a result, when the foot or the head touches the ball to move it forward, there's an instant photograph of position. Yeah. But we get arguments, don't we, in terms of interfering with play. So let's play around with the offside law, but let's take out a lot of the subjectivity and try and make it black and white in terms of the process and the law, rather than if this happens and that happens and we're all confused about, well, I wouldn't say confused, but we have different interpretations of deliberate play. So I think there's this complete mix.
Do you think human nature comes into play here, Keith, as well, where a referee has said, right, go and have a look at this on the screen. We're pretty much sure that that's a red card. You better have a look, because they very rarely will actually go, you know what, I'm going to stick with what I said in the first place because someone else is telling them somewhere. You've got to hold your nerve, and sometimes it's not that easy. So that comes into play too, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, what we see is a shift of the actual decision that should be the referee's ownership shifted to the VAR. And, that 6 minutes one, what did we see? We saw the referee go to the screen and with less than 30 seconds makes the call. It didn't interrogate what the VAR had been interrogating. So, yeah, I think that we're developed and have developed lazy refereeing, an over-reliance of VAR. I still think you cannot referee one day and VAR operator the next. We need specialist VAR operators. And finally, I think in terms of the big screen, why not involve the fans? Why don't we see or hear the process? This is common sense. And they've got, they don't have to look round. They don't have to experiment. Just look at rugby, how they do it and how they sell the decision, because we can see the process and hear what is going off.
The only good thing I've ever seen is when the VAR is checking a goal for the opposition and then that's disallowed. That's the only time you get at least there's something you can enjoy. So let's talk about Arsene Wenger then, and Arsene Wenger's daylight rule. For me, I just look at it and think it's still measuring. So it doesn't make any difference whether you've got a millimetre, whether you've got a metre. It doesn't matter if it's daylight. You may look at it and think, actually, is that daylight or is that a shadow? Is that his shirt? Is that the sky? It's still going to be the same old problems.
Yes, it is. And I think that's why I think we need a law change that gives any benefit of doubt. When the Premier League was first up in operational, the PGMOL, Philip Dunn was the boss. I obviously took over from him, but Philip operated offside where the benefit of the doubt went to the forward. The players bought in, the managers bought in, and I think that's where Wenger is going. I think that's where his landing site is. I want any benefit of any doubt, the goal to be allowed. And I think that's what we want. I don't think we want goals chalked off with toenails, because the reality is, when somebody comes out and says, oh, by the way, we've got a 5 centimetre tolerance in where the line is positioned, then we're just throwing the cards in the air and saying, well, whichever one lands and the one we select will go with a goal or no goal. That's not how to referee. We want consistency.
Yeah. It seems like it's not a lot to ask, but in real life, unfortunately, it is. You were always, and I've still said that, I'm not against the video-assisted refereeing. It's there, it's a tool, and it can be used. But where we are now, so many people, and these are real football people, and actually were really into technical details, and also think it was very important in the first place, are now saying, you know what, we just got to get rid of it. It's just a waste of time. It's never going to happen. There is no chance they will get rid of VAR. But if you had the decision to make, Keith, would you keep it or would you get rid of it?
I would keep it.
Yep.
But what I would say is I'd make a promise to the Premier League that it's going to improve. And then I think I'd say I want a year's time frame. And if I don't see or I can't deliver with the referees improved performance of delivery of decisions using VAR, then I'll be on the side of dropping it. I think this is about training, education, development and leadership of the referees. I think Howard Webb should go for a panel of specialists. Look, this is what happens when we go to the European Championships or the World Cup. They actually may get referees, but they bring them in as VAR operators. I think Jared Gillett will go to the World Cup as a Premier League referee, but will go there as a VAR specialist. And this is effectively saying, I'm not being clever here. I'm saying this is what is required. We need the very best. We need accountability. We've got to train them in the same way that pilots are trained. Don't crash the plane. And if then there is still some area of doubt about a decision, a detailed explanation, not defensive, but one that says, look, we've come to the wrong decision. This is why. And if it's down to people and they can't operate, then you have to move them on. I think you've just got to be a bit tougher.
But Keith, don't you think that there's going to be referees that will be, I want to be a referee. I don't want a VAR. I've trained for this. You know, I've spent so many years training and I've always wanted to be a referee. That's not what I want to do. So it's going to be difficult to try and separate the two, isn't it?
Yeah, you make a really good point, Paul. The reality is that in their career process already in place, there's a point at which a referee is asked, do you want to be or continue as a referee and advance to the Premier League, or do you want to be an assistant referee? They make that choice. So that choice is already being made. I think this is one step further that says, look, actually, we're going to make you VAR, but we've got to train them to be better. And we've got to get them to use the technology, the cameras, if you like, the screens in front of them, much better. And I think we've got to then say, you're the referee, you take the ownership. Me, I would close Stockley Park. I would have them on the bus at the ground. Yeah. And then at the end of the match, before the match, they meet the match officials, they get the atmosphere and everything. And post-match, they're in that room when the manager knocks on the door and wants an answer to a question. We want some level of, if you like, involvement, not in a planet or a satellite that could be anywhere around the world in a room at Stockley Park, because I think it's not delivering what we want.
One more question for you, and that is, when it comes to the league, of teams that have benefited and teams that haven't, Chelsea seem to have benefited more than anybody else. There's Manchester United down the bottom that seem to be facing bad decisions against them. Is there anything in that, or is that just luck or bad luck?
I think that's luck or bad luck, but built into it, that is an analysis that you would look at every week.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, look, let us look at this weekend. We had Craig Pawson on VAR, Delat, who should have, despite what Howard Webb says, that was a red card offence. That was serious foul play, right? So he's involved with Manchester United in that big game sat at Stockley Park.
Right.
This weekend, he's actually in the middle of Arsenal versus Manchester United. In my view, that was an error.
Yep.
And I would have told him on whatever day after, you're not officiating next weekend, mate, because I want better delivery of decisions out of you. And you know, some will say, well, that's harsh. That's no different to a salesman not getting sales and people not delivering at the highest level. These guys are now paid really, really well, which is great. I have no problem with that. In fact, I was part of the motivator to achieve that. So they get the books, just deliver better decisions and more accurate decisions.
Keith, you're always a man that speaks sense to me. I appreciate your time. I think you need to get the boots back on, and we'll speak to you soon. Thank you very much indeed. So there's Keith Hackett. Referee, by the way, of the 100th FA Cup final, former chief of the PGMOL, and some truly valuable insight into refereeing and VAR. So what do you think? Let us know. Has VAR made football better or worse? I know what you're going to say, and I'd love to see someone say, yes, it's better because of it. It's up to you. Let us know in the comments below. And if you've enjoyed this episode, please don't forget to subscribe for more. This has been Sport on GB News Originals. I'm Paul Coyte, and thanks for watching.